Here we are in Duluth, Minnesota at Duluth Creative Company. Joining us today is Zach Campbell, an incredible man, a person who shows me the power of showing up in vulnerability, a person who takes incredible care of himself, and just cool person to discuss life, grief, love, realness. And I'm excited for you to be here today. Welcome in.
Thank you.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about your work, the business that you host here in Duluth, and anything else that you'd like to share.
Sure. Well, I am Owl Moon Mental Health, located here in downtown Duluth. I am a transpersonal psychology trained therapist, but the way I morphed that into my own practice was Jungian psychotherapy. So that's the way I see in looking clinically at a human when I'm working with them in practice, is through the archetypes, which can be many, many different layers of understanding. It can be the basic ego understanding and the different emotional, mental, physical, familial, community layers of a person. So that helps me understand a case. So I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor, and I have a team of 2 other therapists that contract within my business, and we're located in the Arrowhead building here in downtown Duluth.
Yes. Brilliant. Your work is inspiring. You seem to treat people of all walks of life. To tell us a little about like your case, who you enjoy, what sort of people you enjoy working with?
Sure. Well, I think for me, I have focused primarily on trauma and addiction with adults. And I can't work with just adults because there's a fascination I have with couples. So the good news is I can work with a variety of couples. It could be a husband and wife, a wife and a wife. I have folks on my caseload that are in emotionally non-monogamous or polyamorous relationships. And so the variety of types of cases that person-to-person contact is diverse in a good way. I prefer working with a more complex case. I don't work with children because I have 4 of my own, and I just draw that boundary of I can't. It's just too close to home, too close to heart, and gives me the ability for me to really be at my best in challenging and provoking clients in their shadow or their worst side of themselves. I feel very confident being being in provocation, provoking clients, and challenging them at their best or worst to grow.
Yes.
So that's where I enjoy. So that sometimes looks like personality disorders in terms of borderline personality or narcissistic personality, which is fascinating that the borderline types of personalities stay longer in my practice and the narcissistic types don't last long. I don't know what that means, but that's just a nice like anecdotal review of my clientele. So,
And what heightened your interest in working with like severe trauma cases?
Excellent question. It was my experience at the Minnesota Sex Offender Program in Moose Lake, a position and a program that I loved, I enjoyed. I worked there as a clinician, as a program director and clinical supervisor. So wore a couple different hats, but that's where I really got to understand trauma at its finest with real complex, deep cases with people with medical trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, and then throw on that personality disorders and mix in some high psychopathy, and you have one type of client that might have pedophilic interests or have molestation history. So some of that sexual perpetration mixed in with the humanness of who they are and their addiction and trauma. Oh yeah, and you can't forget there might be a cocaine addiction, there might be a alcohol addiction, and that's inside one person. So it quickly taught me to know and understand so many different aspects of a person and get at the heart of what their needs are.
Mm-hmm.
Not, oh, this person is an offender. No, this is a human being that needs quality treatment. The ultimate goal is to reintegrate them back into society. And if we need to do that, we need to get them doing the basics: emotional regulation, understanding full accountability for their actions, and how to then to apply that into relationship, right? So, yeah, that's where that's where I grew up as a clinician, and that's how I totally fell in love with doing this work.
Wow. The complexity of humanity, the complexity that's in each one of us on that level. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, to be able to work with maybe a high psychopathy guy, but you're using some of the basic tools you would use with any client in terms of maybe the gateway is working with the inner child. Maybe the gateway is the pathways to offending. Maybe the gateway is helping them understand that forgiveness is healing for them. And it isn't just about performing for other people what they look like to society or to make themselves look better to get a job or to get a relationship or to, in some guys' case, to have sex, because they're maybe motivated in that way. But how do we rewire the motivations into self-care, emotional regulation, and basic human connection? That is a value. So, yeah, I love the work.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And you've heard many, many stories.
Yeah. And as I giggle here, it's I was a case manager in Santa Fe, New Mexico at Ayudantes, which is a methadone maintenance program. And I didn't hold that position for very long, maybe under a year. But I was really thrown into working with complex cases. This is before I was a clinician, before I went to grad school. But I knew I was working myself into that. I was a practicing massage therapist at the time, while also being a case manager. And it gave me a level of exposure of being around people who have just had a rough life. Yes, because of maybe their addiction to IV heroin use, but also job loss, divorce, domestic violence. It was my first time I'd ever worked with a sex worker, and she was having a rough time. But to be able to acknowledge how my case management services at the time could support them, it really inspired me to be like, oh, okay, I can work with just about anyone. Yeah. Not that I would, but there's a limitation of working with all of our skills, but it inspired me to say that's more of where I'm driven towards, people who have had rough goes in life. And that's so much more fun, I think. So, yeah.
And how did you go from a massage therapist to like a counselor?
Sure.
How did that happen?
Sure. Well, living in Santa Fe, New Mexico, it was originally a source or a place of spiritual exploration. I originally went down to Santa Fe in order to go to grad school for a good books program and study the canon of Western thought at St. John's College, their grad program. And that's where I found Carl Jung, started reading everything he had ever written, fell in love with, again, that design, that archetypes, the complexities of how he described psychology. And that then kicked off all sorts of searching and learning through Buddhist meditation, different spiritual practices, going to nutritional gurus, going to light healing ceremonies, trying all types of different practices to really understand myself better. But that's where I had the design and the idea of, yes, psychology, but first I need to do some soul searching. And eventually I applied to Naropa. I didn't get into Naropa in Boulder. And there was this lovely college called Southwestern College in Santa Fe. And that's knowing what I wanted to develop as a practice. I couldn't do it before getting into my body deeper. The only way to do that is become a massage therapist. I found a great program called Crestone Healing Light Center in Crestone, Colorado. It's a 12-week intensive where you learn Qigong, Tai Chi, and Kundalini Yoga as a practice every morning. And then you do massage practices all day for 12 weeks. You learn Subo, you learn Jinshindo, acupressure, raindrop therapy, Swedish massage, deep tissue, sports massage, and others. And that practice really forces you to get into your body because for 12 weeks, you're practicing with other people, you're trading, learning and understanding. And for me, there was a real sobriety element of you're not really exposed to all the vices, being that you're living in a dojo for 12 weeks. And so it was a real opportunity to get away from coffee and caffeine and alcohol and any kind of drug there was. The sex, drugs, and rock and roll was kind of eliminated for a while. And I really got into understanding how I operate. And that was a beautiful understanding of, okay, how can I apply this to where I want to bring it into the psychology of working with a person? So I took a couple years to practice massage before I then dove into starting my clinical practice.
Cool. Yeah. In the process of befriending yourself, allowing, as a therapist of any kind, knowing yourself on a deep level is massively important for supporting other humans in the process of life. Will you tell us some about that, like your rituals, your getting to know Zachary throughout your life? I see you as a friend of self. You're comfortable in yourself, which is one of the greatest gifts I believe any human can give to themselves, is to enjoy. And just kind of tell us a little bit about that. You've been doing it for years and years of unpacking and loving, but how do you, I guess I'm asking, how do you keep that going, like day to day now over time?
Yeah. So self-care, in order to be tuned in terms of my high expectations of being with a person and the amount of people that I do see in a week, I have to have exceptional self-care. So daily practice is getting up, and the first thing I do is I write down my dreams. So as a Jungian psychotherapist, I monitor usually 2 or 3 dreams that I remember. So I quickly write those down in a journal. I go to my evening chair or morning chair in the living room, write down what the dreams are. And then I have some techniques where I look at the theme of the thoughts, the theme of the feelings, and then just any themes or archetypes that I find important. I'll write all that down. I might identify complexes that I'm seeing. If my anima or animus is showing up, I write that down. Anima and animus so that's a Jungian term. It's the either female or male version of myself. And inside of us, we all have that. So I'll identify that of how it's showing up. and why it's showing up. And then usually at the end of that, I ask myself a question. And it's maybe, what is anxiety teaching me today? Or what does this complex say about what's going on with my relationship with my son? There's always some sort of link in to today. And that helps me ground and focus every single day. In terms of physical practices, I have a weekly physical practice of lifting weights and going to yoga, running, or in the winter skiing. Love to hit the trails here in the area. My favorite trail is up the shore. And then I have monthly practices of twice a month. I make sure that I do a pipe ceremony. So I trained with a indigenous native shaman down in the Southwest, and he taught me Native American pipe ceremony. So I practiced that. I sing in a choir. So being with that community choir helps me, be in something greater than myself. Mm-hmm. And so between the daily and the weekly and the monthly practices, we're trying to hit all of the areas, the emotional, the physical, the spiritual. We're trying to hit all of it. So, you look at the end of the month and go, oh, yeah, all right, I took care of myself. Yeah. And I only know that because it helps me get better sleep. It helps me focus, get the right nutrition. It helps me be a better dad. It helps me sit with a client so that when there is maybe a charge, I can just take a breath and tune in and regulate. I'm not dysregulated like I maybe was 20 years ago when I started this. And I'd get distracted, or I wasn't doing these integrated practices. So yeah, these rituals keep me sane.
Yes. And how long have you practiced them? How?
Boy, the dream journaling started in Santa Fe. So that was 25, 26 years ago that I started doing the dream journaling routinely. I've been an athlete or working out my entire life. So, yeah, some of these I've gotten also just better in the last 7 to 10 years as I age and I know that I need to take things seriously. I had what looked like a heart attack 4 or 5 years ago. It wasn't, but it really it was one of those wake up moments of, hey, let's make sure that we are running every single week or making sure we're going skiing at least twice a week. So we have these symptoms or life eruptions that remind us, yeah, I got to make sure my heart's okay. Got to make sure my legs are okay. Let's not miss yoga this week. And I was making my coffee after dream journaling this morning and was like, I don't want to lift weights. And I just let it be a thought. I didn't take it seriously. I didn't let it sink in. I didn't feed it. I didn't even give it the courage to manifest into something else. Instead, I said, so what? And made my coffee and went about my day. And of course, that's what I did before my 10 o'clock therapy appointment was lift weights. So yeah.
Something I admire about you is the depth of self-responsibility you take. And can you give us some insight into being responsible for yourself and how the power in that?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest piece of that level of accountability and being truly honest with myself was manifested fully with admitting that I'm an alcoholic and having to face that level of scrutiny and understanding of how, from a very young age, growing up in an alcoholic household, things were chaotic, dysregulated, inconsistent. I didn't get the attention I so richly deserved. and to play that out through a variety of compulsive means. And then finally at a nice, lovely low point of my rock bottom, I decided I could no longer not address everything who I am. And I was doing yoga and running and lifting. I was doing all that. But there was this other element that I wasn't being fully honest with myself. So I think for me, I attempted to do that through support back in Santa Fe, but I wasn't ready for it. I absolutely wasn't ready. Or I thought, I can do sobriety on my own. I can do it with just will and friends and my spiritual practices. That'll be enough. Clearly wasn't. And so about 3.5, 4 years ago, I went and sought support, went and saw a sponsor, started working the steps. And that really embedded in me that design and that program of Alcoholics Anonymous to really take seriously all of my faults. And that's part of the step 4 is to really look into an inventory. Like, this is what is going on with me today. And the workbook I worked with my sponsor, I went back as far as I can remember to look at the thinking, the feeling, the compulsive acts that led to the person I was up to that point. And then, of course, the later steps help you partially give it up to God, but also partially face it with the people that you harmed along the way. As long as you're not harming them in the process of saying, hey, we need to make amends here. I want to apologize for what I did in, 1999 or 2020. I said this, I did this, and I take accountability for it. So it's with that attitude that I have today to really look at my thoughts and my behavior and my feelings rigorously, with authority, with accountability. And I'm knowing I'm not perfect. This isn't about being perfect. It is about being exceptional to myself every day, which is hard. Yeah. It's really hard. And that's the hardest thing is there's a lot of criticism and scrutiny that I can put on myself to be great, to be amazing, to be of service to other people. And I fail. I fail like any other person fails. The difference is I need to admit it.
Right.
And if I don't admit it, it could lead to some other negative behavior. An anger outburst, a criticism of myself or another person, not acknowledging rage or pain or rejection, or the other day I was at Zeitgeist standing in line for a movie, and they were out of tickets. And so I'm waiting, and somebody came over to compliment me on my hair. Like, oh, your hair's beautiful. And I was like, boom, it hit me and it hurt. Like, this is a compliment. Why is this hurting me? And I had to leave. I didn't exchange an interaction. I just smiled politely, exit stage left, and I left. And I went and sat in my car and I looked at that. It was just a feeling of, oh, you don't like compliments. That's fine. And I felt that embarrassment. It wasn't shame. I just felt the embarrassment of having somebody publicly come up to me out of nowhere, not knowing who they are, and saying, oh, your hair's lovely. And it's hit me as, this is super uncomfortable. And for me to just acknowledge, yeah, this is okay. It's a feeling. Sat in my car, breathed through it for 5 minutes, went home, didn't think of it again. The old me might have held a resentment, dismissed the person who said that as some sort of criticism. I would have criticism, how they look, how they acted, why did they do that? And maybe characterized them as some sort of predator, Why are they seeking me? Like, what kind of nuts, what kind of crazy is that? Well, it's something I was deciding was them when it's really just me being defensive. So it helped this, like this active awareness, whether it's through Buddhist meditation or working the steps and taking inventory or sitting with sponsorship or doing my own reflection every morning, it is guiding me into some level of awareness. Look at it. Pay attention to it. Thought, feeling, behavior, sensation. What am I sensing? What am I hearing? And just breathe. Like just relax and breathe when you don't know. When you don't know, just breathe. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes. And the power of presence and awareness in that moment. So your body went out to the car, processed it because it was present, and then you moved on. Mm-hmm. I find that to be like a strength in people when they can process life as it happens. So then you don't hold weight or hold heaviness moving forward. You just take the time. Yeah. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you're in the moment.
Yeah.
Whatever the moment is, whether it's a kid screaming because they don't want to have Brussels sprouts for dinner or a client that's having a really tough time with a relationship that isn't working out or they recently got fired. It's being present to, okay, not trying to analyze why is this happening. No, it is happening. So be aware of what is happening.
Yep.
I'm not trying to fix it, make it go away, diminish it, make it evil or bad. Just it is. It's happening. So be present. Maybe I can help, maybe I can't. Or maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should remove myself because I won't be effective here. And knowing my limitations.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So to discuss the power of consistently showing up for yourself. So how doing all of these things for self day after day, year after year, like how do they add up and create more easement in your body, in your life, in your psyche, like the practice of how you live?
Well, being that I have worked really hard to harness my brain capacity and, not just be smart or read as much as I possibly can. I think what it comes down to is how do I simplify what's happening? Recognize I'm having a feeling of sadness. Okay, sit with that sadness. And okay, I still have to do the dishes. Yep. It's like, okay, it's okay to be sad and do the dishes because I've got to do both. But I'm not going to disregard this sadness or this depression or this anxiety. And I think the older me might have sought some sort of distraction. And I often see that in people where they might seek marijuana, sex, wine, shopping. They might seek something to interfere with what is just reality and not confusing ourselves with, I got to pay the bills, I got to do the dishes, I got to sweep the floor, and I have to go to work. And I'm feeling sad. Like, yep, okay, feeling sad. Let's do all of this. And usually it shifts. That's what I've noticed is if we're simplifying and we're truly paying attention, it automatically shifts. And that was a treat I remember I really got going through Peter Levine's somatic experiencing back in Santa Fe back in the day when I first learned. It's probably 2003, 2004. And it was the first time I was sitting with a technique therapeutically with a client. And these were mock clients. We were practicing the technique. And it was fascinating to sit with, okay, I'm just breathing. I'm aware of what's happening. And boom, anxiety. Oh, where is it? It's in my chest. Oh, and then, now sadness is in my throat. And these were happening within breaths. And they were moving. And it was teaching me oh, if you just pay attention, it's going to change. Guaranteed. But if we work really hard to pretend it's not there, to diminish it, to reject it, to deny it, it'll manifest into something else. So, yeah. Keep it simple and just pay attention, I think is the answer there.
Yeah. If we're going to move into grief, you've taught me a lot about grief throughout the years I've known you in the different components of grief.
Mm-hmm.
So I always kind of like, younger Kate looked at it as like someone had to die in order for us to grieve. But as I live on, grief can happen with living things as well. I think a great example is like the pandemic, when everybody was like shut off from their normal habitual life of consuming things and going and it was like externally fulfilled, kind of came to a halt. Mm-hmm. And what we all grieved individually, collectively, that started to show me like the grief when things don't go as you may see, or just befriending grief. You've taught me a lot about. So kind of open dialogue on grief itself.
Yeah. So I am the type of person that loves a good funeral. Strange to say that, but ever since I was a kid, I embraced death, even though my biggest person that died when I was 12 was my grandfather, and it hurt, it stung, it was painful. He was my buddy. And just thinking about it, I'm still sad about it. And what a glorious time. I'll never forget my father doing the eulogy and talking about him as a friend and a farmer and a fellow community member. And the songs we sung, the church we were at, the bars that we had in the church basement, the types of family members I got to meet and share stories with that I maybe didn't know as well, in both the younger and older generations that happen at the wake and the funeral and the time you're just around big celebrations like that. And death, whether it's death of a spouse or a pet or a grandfather, it puts a real mark in a moment of really being in the moment. Again, it's like life is offering this gem of pay attention to life. And either the death of a really close, intimate member of your life, or maybe the loss of somebody famous like Prince, the musician, it kind of wakes you up into, okay, what's important today? Why is this shaking me up? It is a shock, grief. It also can be an enrichment of, okay, why is this important for my health? Why is this important for my relationships? Maybe I need to be a better dad now. I remember being the day that Prince died. I remember coming home from work and I was super stressed, and I got home and I heard the news and they were playing all sorts of Purple Rain songs, and they were going through all of his catalog on the radio. And I remember turning on the music to the kids, and my wife and I at the time were telling stories about Prince, and we were dancing and we were sharing all this, this wonderful medicine of relationship with our kids, because this famous artist had unfortunately died. So to me, it's an opportunity to really reevaluate and appreciate life. Yes, its heaviness is a gift, because it pulls us down to slow down. And I'll never forget when my mother died. I think it was 2014. So what is that, 12, 14 years ago, something like that. It really put me into a fog a fog of grief. It was hurtful. It was painful. It was heavy. I was feeling all the feelings. I took a week off of work. I needed it. I could barely function. But I still wrote the eulogy, took care of my kids. I still did all the things I was supposed to do. But it was a real gift, again, to me to know how important and how precious life is. And to reevaluate, okay, what again do I need to do better? What am I forgetting? Maybe I'm not going to the gym as much. For me, I had a pretty strong relationship with my mother where I still sensed her spirit around me after she died. And so I was having pretty intimate conversations about that with people and friends that were also having a similar experience. I had an aunt come up to me and talk to me about my mother visiting her in a dream and how apparently mom was just checking in on her, checking in on my aunt, and how it was good. And so she had to, relay that story to me. And so we have these moments of like, yeah, you get to, I think, appreciate life through grief. Yeah. And that's why I value hospice care. That's why I value grief workshops. That's why I value grief retreats. And it can be a medicine of deepening into life. So, grief in a nutshell.
Grief. That's real.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. And we'll wrap up with any thoughts on how to stay engaged with life, like day to day, like the presence we discussed, like acknowledging of the moments lived, like how do we stay engaged through life, of whether it's going for a bike ride, whether it's writing in our journal. It's like the simple things in the long run are what bring us back to presence, and presence is engagement. And just as like a therapist, what are some of the things you share in how to keep people carrying forward?
Immediately, my answer is viva la vida, live life. And for me, recently, that's been doing some French cooking. Like, I love French food. I love German food. So this weekend, I made this chicken dish that's a French recipe that I found online that has like an oregano sauce, and I made it for my boys, and I had it for leftovers before I came here. Like, I love that French cuisine and that flavor. And so that makes me happy, is to eat really good food. Yeah, I could have just thrown chicken in the oven and chopped up vegetables, but no, spending 5 minutes looking up the recipe, 15 minutes preparing it, kind of understanding it's a new recipe, throw it together, mix it up, and then to just, like, I sat down at the table. My kids were running around. They weren't even paying attention. And I got to sit down and just ooh and awe and live in the flavors of that moment. To be like, I'm really giving myself this nourishment. It's creative, it's artistic, it's making me happy. And that's been a theme I'm really working on this year, is really identifying my joy. Like finding the ways I can be joyous. And so that's been a spiritual practice of mine I've intentionally put into in the last 6 months, and I will continue that for the next 6 months, is maximizing joy. And so for me, it was pulling out of the leftovers and eating them up and going, oh God, this is so good. I'm so glad I made this. This sauce is amazing. So yeah, for others, do that. Do that which you enjoy. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a complex travel the world thing. It can be as simple as whatever food you make it great for you. So
great advice.
Viva la vida. Live life to the fullest, whatever it is for you. Maybe that's getting the next skateboard because you love skateboarding. Great. Do it.
Go do
Enjoy it. Don't hold back. Don't let the thoughts that you can't do it in your head hold you back from just making sure you do it for yourself, whatever that is.
Yeah. Like get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing up today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes. Thank you.